Thank you for your time today. I'm going to be talking about VMware's technology outlook for 2019 and really beyond that with a specific focus on cloud and security. I'm Chris Wolf. I work in VMware's office of the CTO. We spend a lot of time looking at futures and ensuring that the technologies that we're investing in is closely aligned to the needs of our customers. We do a lot of co-innovation with our customers. We spend a lot of time ensuring that what we do on the R&D side is aligned with what your needs are. And what you'll see here is just an introduction to some of the top level trends that we're seeing, and then more specifically, precisely, what are we going to do to address those trends to make your lives easier, to make your businesses more productive, and so on. So that said, let's go ahead and dive right in here. First of all, transformation is a constant. It's no longer about having IT projects where there's a definitive start and end. In all likelihood, by the time we even get to the middle of the project, some requirements are going to change. So what this means is, as we're architecting new technology solutions, we have to architect them with the expectation of change, that things are going to happen, things that we don't expect will happen. And now how quickly can we pivot to those new things while still preserving a lot of the investment that we've already made in technology? So that's really key. Intelligence is increasingly everywhere and in everything we do, whether it's an Amazon Echo or Alexa at home, whether it's our smart devices that we have, whether it's sensors that are helping with autonomous transportation and even things like autonomous trains. Data and intelligence is everywhere, and we're really just at the beginning here as well. Differentiating innovation is starting to supersede incremental innovation. Sure, we always want to get a little bit more efficient every year. We want to get a little bit faster. We want to be more productive. Absolutely true. But at the same time, it's not just enough to get a little bit better every year. We have to look at how do we disrupt ourselves. Certainly VMware is a technology company. This is something we spend a lot of time on. It's something all of the organizations that we work with as well in every industry vertical are seeing these challenges too. So it's A, how can I start to place my bets that can allow me to do things in a more disruptive fashion? That often leads to looking at more modular architectures that are more agile, they're more efficient. I can use larger building blocks and I can start to do things faster, which in turn means that some of the specializations I might have had in the past that might have been really important to me, I start to let go of those things going forward. Things like performance tuning between a hypervisor and a storage array is something that increasingly we're able to do that level of work automated in software so that we don't have to have humans do those types of things. Instead, they might be focusing on how am I managing my data across multiple cloud environments? How am I ensuring that that data is properly life-cycled and archived and protected at the same time? Pragmatic Devops is often, when I mention this phrase, folks might see that as a bit of a head scratcher. But what I mean is that it doesn't have to be about just an entirely new way of doing things. DevOps and the DevOps movement in general is about being able to accelerate innovation, being able to connect our developers closer to that customer experience, being able to continually iterate on our code in a much more rapid fashion than we've ever been able to do in the past. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to abandon all of our operational principles. In many ways, what VMware is working with our open source community, with the cloud provider partners that we have, with traditional application vendors and so on, is more pragmatic approach to DevOps, where I can have a consistent operational plane, I can have consistent infrastructure, consistent operations, and my software engineers can use the tools that they want, they can use the services that they want, they can use the open source projects that they want, all with a native experience. If I mentioned this to you a couple of years ago, you might have said, well, sure, that sounds like you're describing some utopian world that will never exist in IT. I'll show you some examples in this presentation how that's actually happening today, how developers can even use things like a native cloud provider API set and have that application run on VMware infrastructure, say even in a retail store instead of even at the cloud provider site, all while preserving a native experience for the software developer. So these things are happening. We can ensure that we have that consistency and control that operations requires, and I have that native experience that allows our developers to innovate at a rapid pace. So we can get the best of all worlds, and that is something that VMware is committed to. IT leaders are finding the balance between velocity and control of intellectual property. What I mean by that is the fact that IT leaders, in many cases, we've looked at something like cloud and said, let's go do it, let's consume it. But when we go down that path, I might be making a permanent strategic relationship for the life of that application with a particular cloud provider. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I get tremendous value, tremendous velocity by leveraging public cloud services. At the same time, though, there's often parts of the application stack which defines who I am as a business. It's my core intellectual property, and I want to maintain ownership of that intellectual property, and I want to have the flexibility to deploy that intellectual property anywhere. And that's what's pointing folks to projects such as Kubernetes and VMware PKS as examples, because that's giving me that control of that IP and giving me that flexibility, and I can still layer in cloud services as necessary as well, giving me the best of all worlds. But it doesn't have to be absolutes one or the other. It's stepping back and saying, what's core to my business? What really defines who I am? These are the things I need to maintain control of, so therefore I'm going to deploy in this fashion, or I'm going to build the applications in this fashion. Another area that's really important and a trend we're seeing is with networking and security. If we think about security threats today, they are constantly evolving. They're evolving at this rapid pace. Something is different every single day, every single second. And because of that, I can't look at the security threat model and decide, you know what, I just need a few more layers of static-based security to defend against a highly evolutionary and highly dynamic threat. That just doesn't cut it anymore. So our security itself and our networks need to be based in software that gives them the ability to pivot and adjust dynamically as these threats change. And we'll get into that in the presentation too. In addition, cloud, it's no longer a place, it's an operating model. We're continuing to see use cases where ultimately it's just not efficient to move data, say, to a particular cloud data center or a cloud service. In many cases, it's just easier to move the intelligence or that cloud service to where data is being created or to where data is being consumed. I can get faster responses, I can get more efficiencies. It's just more practical to operate in that manner. So we can think about cloud as a way to operate our business, but it doesn't necessarily have to point to a place. It's just that operating model, and we're doing a lot of work with our cloud provider partners to give you the flexibility to take those services anywhere that you do business, anywhere that your technologies are consumed, anywhere that data is created. So if we step back and look at the VMware Vision overall, this looks like a vision that you've seen from us for a number of years. We're committed to allowing you to operate in any cloud, giving you access to run any application in those clouds, or private clouds, or data centers, or edge sites, and so on. And then being able to consume those with a consumer-grade experience from any device. It's really important for our customers to have that flexibility because at the end of the day, you're not going to have one cloud provider partner. You're not going to have a few or just a small number of open source projects that you're relying on. You're not going to have just a few traditional application vendors. You're going to have lots and lots of stuff and strategic partners. VMware's ability and what we've done for a significant amount of time is to give you the flexibility to be able to operate in the areas that where your business requires by maintaining a consistent policy, consistent security, a consistent user experience, allowing your developers to access these different types of environments based on the business needs. We don't want you to have any artificial constraints to how you innovate, how you operate your business, and how you secure your business. So making this world of complexity work seamlessly together is something that VMware's been good at for a very long time, and we're going to continue to focus on for you. Now, if we go even further back, so it's great to talk about clouds and devices and things like that, but there's a lot of things that VMware is investing in. And I can't cover all of these in this presentation. I'm going to be focused predominantly on cloud and security here, and even just a subset of those because, again, they're vast and we only have 45 minutes. I'm sure you don't want to sit at your desk and listen to a webinar for hours and hours and hours. I don't blame you. So what are some things we're doing? We're driving a lot of machine learning into our products and intelligence into our products. We're doing a lot of work to invest to allow machine learning workloads and local inferencing and intelligence to run on our stack as well so that you can get the intelligence right to the point that data is being created. A lot of times this is very necessary, whether it's doing things like, say, scanning for proper safety equipment at a work site, whether it's doing a more visible example, such as being able to understand in real time or near real time what's happening around an autonomous vehicle, autonomous truck, an autonomous train as examples, and being able to react instantaneously to what I might see as a potential problem. It might be a deer on a railroad track. The train needs to know it has to stop when these types of things are detected. I can't wait on a query to a cloud and some period of time delay to determine what to do, right? These things have to happen immediately. So therefore, we need to get that intelligence as close to that sensor or as close to the data as possible. And that can get into IoT or Internet of Things initiatives and so on. There's a lot coming out in 2019 around hardware acceleration. This is giving you the ability to do even richer intelligence analytics on larger data sets. Technologies like persistent memory are going to be very important for a lot of organizations as well as we go forward here. There's work around serverless computing, adaptive security, and having these flexible security models. In quantum computing, that might look as a bit of an anomaly, and you might be saying, wait a minute, is VMware building a quantum computer? No, we're not. But what quantum computing is doing is it's effectively rendering cryptography as we know it something that's going to be a real challenge for us going forward. So being able to step back, really what the long-term impact or that near-term impact can be on quantum computing, on IT as we know it today, is causing us to have a new Y2K moment. And that Y2K moment is not about a year, but it's actually about the cryptography algorithms that we have in place today. And effectively having to, how do we change all that out to be resilient to the pure processing power that we see with quantum computers. So lots of areas that we're investing in, and we can certainly follow up with any of you in these areas going forward. So now a couple areas that I want to focus on in the context of cloud and security is applications, and then what we're doing with the clouds themselves. So let's go ahead and dig into the application space. Now key, like I said before, when we're thinking about how do I maintain flexibility and control of the intellectual property that I'm creating and the applications that I'm building, a key building block for many enterprises today is Kubernetes. And what VMware has been committed to doing with VMware PKS, or the Pivotal Container Service, is to make it very simple for you to go from zero to Kubernetes in a full Kubernetes environment incredibly quickly. So through our stack, we're able to do all your provisioning, your storage, your compute isolation, your security, provisioning your networks, your segments, your load balancers, and any of your IPAM services attached to networking, and providing this highly dynamic environment for your applications, and also giving you all the tools to manage that environment as well to ensure that your SLAs are being met. This is pure Kubernetes. There are no proprietary extensions to your tool sets or APIs. If my developers want to manage their environments using their kubectl commands, they can often do it. So this is giving you that pure Kubernetes environment. Again, very simple to deploy, very simple to consume, and simple to operate. Beyond containers and Kubernetes, we're also seeing more flexibility with cloud services. And one way to think about this is beyond just traditional applications and cloud native or containerized applications, we're also seeing the need to bring more cloud services out to where data is created, where data is consumed, and so on. At the end of the day, cloud services are just like any other application. They need access to processors, they need access to storage, they need access to the networks. So somebody has to still make all of this happen in a fluid manner that's consistent and secure and reliable. And this is where we come in. Where we've been focused from an apps and services perspective is in a few different areas. It's landing a number of cloud services natively on the VMware stack to give you the flexibility to run those cloud services anywhere. Maybe it's in the cloud provider's data center. Maybe it's in a colo. Maybe it's at an edge site. Maybe it's in one of your enterprise data centers. The bottom line is there's lots of use cases where I might need to bring a data analytics service that I just want to consume from a cloud provider down into a particular site where that data lives. And that data might have other dependencies, making it harder to migrate, or there's lots of different use cases where that could be a challenge. But giving you that flexibility is really key. And then in addition to that, if there's some type of disruption with the cloud provider data center, allowing you to continue to operate that service even when I don't have a network connectivity to a public cloud. Giving you that flexibility and a native experience across our different cloud native apps, whether that's platform as a service, containers as a service, or even functions as a service, giving you lots of ways to engineer different solutions going forward. And finally, of course, traditional applications. I shouldn't have to necessarily modernize everything. Maybe I want to modernize in increments and slowly modernize different sites rather than have to take some type of shotgun approach, which adds more variability and potentially more risk. So this gives you the ability to continue to integrate with your traditional applications and mix the old and the new. And at the end of the day, bring in these very compelling hybrid applications and services, which might be comprised of, say, a cloud service in a container type of environment or Kubernetes. It could even be an aggregate of cloud services in the future. This is how big we're thinking about these types of problems that we can solve. And again, doing so in a way that provides that native developer experience is really key to everything that we're doing on the innovation side. And also, at the end of the day, too, I might even need local hardware access. So if I'm bringing a cloud analytics service or a cloud ML service down to the edge to do localized inferencing, I might need access to, say, NVIDIA GPUs on the server hardware. So we can make all of that a fluid and seamless experience as well. Now, in terms of what we've actually done here, in terms of getting those cloud services onto our stack, We've been focused on data analytics and automation services such as functions as a service. So Greengrass Lambda functions from AWS is an example of that. At VMworld 2018, we had announced Amazon RDS preview on VMware vSphere as well. Google's also done some demonstrations as well, including GKE on-prem, as well as we have customers today running TensorFlow for localized machine learning and inferencing with models that they're building in the Google Cloud. So there's a lot here, and there's also a lot coming from VMware in this space. Just to give you an example of where we've come, Amazon RDS on VMware is a good example of the commitment that we have to providing that richer partnership or giving you that flexibility with cloud services, and at the same time, doing it in a way that's native to the software engineers. Let's dig into what this ultimately looks like. So in many ways, with the public cloud and our relationship with Amazon Web Services, we've taken VMware Cloud Foundation and allowed that to run and operate in AWS data centers. With Amazon RDS on VMware, we've done just the opposite now. We've now taken a public cloud service that's a traditional public cloud service and given you the flexibility to deploy it anywhere where you have a VMware hypervisor. You get that native experience. We give you the consistent infrastructure and operations, the same tools that you're using to manage your VMware environment. You can manage this new RDS service at the edge as well. We can do replicas. We can replicate to even a native AWS cloud or RDS instance. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you support this across a variety of relational database engines, as you see at the bottom of the slide here. Now, what does this look like from a technical perspective? Your developers, first and foremost, have a native experience. So they can log into their AWS console and they can manage this environment from their AWS console natively, just like they would anything else. The way this works is we create a custom availability zone that's mapped to a VMware vSphere cluster that we can set up and manage through the AWS console and VMware vCenter. That's a certified cluster where we have an agent that can run and ensure that we can meet the performance SLAs of the RDS service. We have a connector piece of software that sits there, which is effectively an API proxy that can allow that service to operate and your developers to access that service locally, even if there's a disconnect to the AWS cloud. So this gives you greater business continuity and continued management when these types of things happen. This is basically what it would look like from the AWS side. So what you see here is that VMware cluster is showing up as a custom AZ or a custom availability zone. So again, native developer experience. This can be managed, and I can manage replication with other AWS availability zones that I already have in place. Now, from the VMware admin side of the house, what we now see is we see a vCenter plugin for the vSphere client plugin that's giving me that Amazon RDS on vSphere, and again, allowing me to manage those availability zones as well. So again, we're preserving that native experience and native access from the AWS side and from the VMware side. So this is what I mean about pragmatic DevOps, where I'm able to provide that native experience for developers, that native and consistent experience for the operations folks, and allow these two worlds to come together. That's in a way that feels very good and very natural for both teams, that they're both getting everything that they want and they're able to innovate at the rate that they would desire to. So we've talked about apps, we've talked about containers, traditional apps giving you lots of flexibility to build and skin these applications. And in addition to that, we need to go a little bit further now. Let's talk about how those applications can run. So I'm going to talk about really all things cloud, how we're building that cloud foundation, and also not just how we're managing those workloads that might be running in a VMware environment, but also what we're doing about your workloads that are running in native AWS or native Azure or in the Google clouds. So let's start to dive into that. Core to our belief, when we start to think about cloud, is that you have a couple of different options here. You have those applications that you're deploying natively to the public clouds. And with those, we're going to be able to manage those for you. We're going to be able to give you some consistent policy and give you good flexibility, at least some operational consistency as you're running and operating those workloads. In addition to that, many of our customers have another requirement where they say, you know what, I want to be able to build these stacks, but I want to maintain a lot of flexibility. I want to be able to run them anywhere. Maybe I need to deploy in the cloud today, but I need to run at a different cloud provider tomorrow, or a different colo, or I want to run this in a data center, or I want to run this at one of my manufacturing sites, or fill in the blank. Maybe I just don't know, but I know I want to have flexibility. This is where that digital foundation from VMware can really give you that. We can give you consistent infrastructure, operations, baked-in security, while preserving that native developer experience so that my developers can continue to operate just as they would. And that would also include consistent telemetry, so the way I diagnose my applications can remain consistent no matter where the applications run. This isn't a Do I just go pure cloud native and use native provider services, or do I build on top of a VMware stack? It's not one or the other, it's really both. And we see customers looking at the different business requirements and the different applications they're building and approaching these problems in different ways. So if we build in, all of our businesses, they're on this multi-cloud journey today. They're operating in multiple clouds. They have sites and different things that they're managing, and none of this is going away. Even that what we see in the estimates from the industry analyst firms and the major firms is that even as we see some data splits, we're seeing really a balance between what data will live in the public cloud versus what data would live in the data center or at the edge, being about a 50-50 split going forward over the next 6-7 years. Now, when we think about hybrid cloud, the VMware hybrid cloud model, as I've said, and it's probably a bit like a broken record for you, but core to our belief is providing consistent infrastructure and operations for anywhere that your applications can run. And again, the importance of that is that my approach to SLA enforcement, my approach to availability, my approach to security, my approach to operational management all stays the same no matter where that application runs. So I'm future-proofing in a fabric that can allow this applications to run anywhere. Again, maybe I'm acquiring a business tomorrow and I need to be able to bring them in. Maybe I didn't expect a natural disaster, so a public services agency now has to deploy those applications on remote equipment that they never anticipated before. So giving you that flexibility to be able to be resilient to the unknown is really key to what we have here with our hybrid cloud vision. And again, maybe I want to migrate tens to hundreds to thousands of VMs from one data center to a public cloud or from a public cloud to another. These are all the technologies that we've been building for you over the past couple of years. Cloud Foundation is the software-defined data center stack that provides the baseline for all of this. So that's what's providing that consistent programmatic compute resources with our ESX hypervisor, ESXi, storage through VMware vSAN, networking through NSX, and also security through NSX and App Defense. We run this on validated hardware, and you see a variety of hardware partners here that participate in that, such as Cisco, Dell EMC, Hitachi, HPE, and others. Integrated appliances that you can also get, such as VxRail, and then also across a variety of public cloud providers. You just see a sampling of the providers here on the slide, but again, this is ensuring that, again, no matter where those applications run, it's the same infrastructure, it's the same SLAs, it's the same tools that you would use to operate and manage it, giving you all of this flexibility with Cloud Foundation. Now, of course, it's great to have this fluid type of compute environment where my workloads run, but it's equally important to have a virtualized network. And this is what the virtual cloud network is all about from VMware, is giving you that assurance that no matter where those applications run, no matter what SaaS services they might integrate with, I can expand my network services globally and do so in software in a dynamic fashion so that I can be able to adjust all of these services no matter where those workloads run. And that's the only way I can have that flexibility is when I'm defining that network fully in software, because I can't guarantee the hardware that a provider would have, or that a colo would have, or that a new business partner might have, and so on. Having a purely software-defined network can allow me to have all of this flexibility and dynamicism that's critical to ensuring that all of my applications can seamlessly work together. NSX is a core underpinning of that virtual cloud network. And again, that's giving me that flexibility to dynamically overlay all of my core network services, my IPAM services, to dynamically provision those services and attach them to my applications, to move applications and allow that network services and the network configuration to just flow with the application. I don't have to sit there and reprogram firewall rules and so on. Again, all of that flexibility is really key from what we've done with NSX, and allowing your applications to have that agility and velocity that many of these applications require. In addition to that, being able to provide a lower level of isolation, where instead of thinking about firewalls on a per zone basis or a per segment basis, I can have external firewalls and really the equivalent of an external data center dedicated down to a single individual application. So I'm segmenting now what we call micro segmentation on a per application basis, not on a per network segment basis, which gives you some security granularity that is just not possible in the physical world. It's technically possible, but it would cost so much to do that you would never actually want to do it in the first place. Of course, we're incredibly distributed as well. So it's one thing to talk about what we can do in the cloud, what we can do in the data centers, and bring all that together. It's equally important to look at software-defined WANs and having that WAN optimization as well, being able to do network service insertion where those applications run, being able to have more intelligent routing between my SaaS services, my cloud services, my data center services, and so on. And again, when I have that software-defined virtualized SD-WAN fabric, I'm able to have all of this flexibility built in. As requirements change, because this is defined in software, I can quickly update to those changes with simply a software update. Again, key to allowing you to have the flexibility to grow and scale your business in needs that you may not anticipate. Okay, so if we step back, we've talked about a lot of that foundation for the cloud and where VMware is going with solutions like VMware Cloud Foundation, the flexibility and agility that we've been doing with networking as well, and what we've been doing with technologies such as microsegmentation. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that now so you can get the full picture of what's happening. If we look at security today, it's fair to say that it's really broken and it's not as dynamic as the threats we face. As we continue to look at more and more threats, buying more and more tools doesn't necessarily make you feel good about how safe you are. It certainly doesn't make me feel good. If we think about that with this approach to say, well, let's just go ahead and bolt on and look for the bad problems with some tools that might be looking at a list of known signatures, that's only going to take you so far. An analogy I like to use is it's like fishing in a lake. There's lots of fish in a lake. And if I go in the lake and I get out on my boat, if I catch 8 fish, I might say, you know what, I had a pretty good day. But you know what? There's hundreds of fish in that lake I didn't catch. I didn't even know they were there, right? They never bit my line, but they're in there, but I didn't see them. And that's security today. It's taken the known, right? Oh, okay, let me go and catch this thing, right? But there's lots of unknown there. And that model can only take you so far. And we've seen this with lots of different exploits that have happened, but whether you're thinking about like WannaCry or Petya and so many more that have impacted lots of businesses and cost hundreds of millions of dollars to them. We can't continue down that path. We have to think differently about security. And this is what VMware's been driving at with our approach to intrinsic security. So, you know, the list goes on and on, whether it's nation states, organized crime, hacktivists, right? Lots of things can happen that's really putting our businesses at risk. So what do we do about it? We want to focus on, instead of chasing the bad, ensuring the good, understanding what the known good state is of an application, and then ensuring that we're just looking at that behavior. So when something doesn't match with the good behaviors of the application, I can start to draw a conclusion that, hey, you know what, this might be this anomaly here. This might be some type of malware or some type of behavior that I need to investigate further. So instead of looking at just a signature that says, I know this is bad, it's saying, I know what's good, so therefore anything that's not good, it could potentially be bad. It gives you a far more dynamic approach to combating against a security threat that's highly dynamic. Now we can do that with Nsx and Micro Segmentation, and what we can do through the VMware infrastructure is give you policy that touches everything that application touches, everything from the compute to the processor to the physical memory to the networks to the storage to the operating system and file system to how those applications are consumed on mobile devices and so on. So giving you that full end-to-end approach to protecting your environments. Some of the core technologies that we use, of course, is our hypervisor that gives us that visibility into how that application is operating. It's our Nsx solution as well, which can software define the network and allow us to have all that dynamicism in the network and how we apply firewalls, how we segment our apps and services. And then finally, App Defense, which is that engine that we're using to enforce that known good state and learn it. There's a lot of machine learning technologies that have been going in to add to the intelligence of App Defense. And I'm going to show you now how that's going to look. So this was the chasing bad approach. If I get a malware penetration into a data center, it's very easy for that malware to spread once it gets in. If we take this a step further with micro-segmentation, what I'm able to do is now put a perimeter around a subset of applications. So I'm ensuring that these applications are allowed to work together, and through our Nsx rules, we can strictly enforce behavior and how those applications interact with other objects on the network so we can effectively block there. That's the core technology of microsegmentation which we can provide. This can be as few as a few objects. This could be single objects or single applications depending on how I want to scale this. Now the key with App Defense technology, it's not just about understanding what the behavior is, but behaviors can change. So I need to learn behavioral patterns as well. So once I understand how that application behaves, what it's doing over the network, what ports it's using, what other applications and services it needs to talk to, what it's writing from the file system, what files are executing, and so on, I can say, okay, this is the known good state of the application. And now anything that's different in that behavior, I'm going to go ahead and alert on. I might turn up network sniffers. I might increase my network firewall rules and so on. And I can do that once I have that application locked. And then finally, I can also adapt. So you might say, you know what, this application, I know the known good state. Now the application owner has applied a patch or an update to the application. Through our mobile application, they're actually able to go ahead and confirm that update to say, okay, well now this is the new known good context for that application. So this is my known manifest of good behavior for that application, and I can go forward. So this is very adaptive technology. We deliver this through vSphere Platinum, which we had announced last year. This has App Defense built right in. It's natively integrated to vSphere. Very simple to turn on these security policies. This also gives us what I had just shown, which we call adaptive microsegmentation. So I'm aligning our policies to the application. I can automatically microsegment. I can automatically do more dynamic security across the network. As I start to see these anomalies, I can lock the compute, lock the network down, depending on what we're seeing happening. And again, the response to these behavioral anomalies is entirely up to you. There's lots of different things you can do here in response to this. But again, the bottom line here is this is giving you a foundation by which you can combat against security threats that you know are there, but you just don't have a signature to find them. This is giving you a new tool to actually find security or security threats. Again, giving you a security policy that can be more dynamic than the threats you face. Okay, let's get further into cloud now. We've been on this path with Amazon Web Services for some time with VMware Cloud on AWS. Essentially, this gives you the entire VMware environment in your AWS data centers globally. I can manage this using vCenter and hybrid link mode and manage using my VMware tools and processes that I already have and know. In addition to that, I can connect these applications to your native AWS services. So one thing to think about is if I'm trying to migrate workloads to the cloud, we can allow you to very quickly migrate them, stand them up on VMware Cloud on AWS, and then hook them into AWS services. The key here is I'm migrating these applications to the cloud without having to rewrite a single line of code. That's incredibly powerful. I'm not spending time refactoring applications to get them to run into a cloud. And in addition to that, I can connect them into native AWS services. Maybe it's an RDS service on the back end. Maybe it's Kinesis. Maybe it's more automation through things like AWS Lambda. But I can do all of that while preserving the core code of the application itself. Maybe I want to close data centers. Maybe I want to use augment capacity. Maybe I want to do disaster recovery as a service. There's lots of different use cases here that we can benefit from with VMware Cloud on AWS. We've been expanding our global reach, as you see here, and we are committed to ensuring that you have a VMware Cloud on AWS environment in every AWS data center globally by the end of this calendar year. And that's what you see here in terms of what we've already accomplished and what we plan to do going forward. Now, in addition to VMware Cloud on AWS, we have a fantastic list of VMware Cloud provider partners that also run VMware Cloud Foundation, and they run the VMware stack in their clouds. So this can further expand your global reach and allow you to leverage the specializations of a lot of different cloud provider partners as well. So maybe you already have a lot of ML that you've been building around the IBM Watson service, and you're trying to move some of your applications into the IBM cloud data centers as well. You might have a strategic partnership with Rackspace or Fujitsu, OVH, and there's so many other global partners that we have that can give you that consistency of VMware and give you all of that flexibility and choice. So in total, our global reach, we have more than 4,200 cloud provider partners, and that encompasses more than 120 countries today. So now we've talked about our Cloud Foundation product and how we can bring that into different clouds and give you that consistent VMware environment. But what about the applications that you have that are running natively in the clouds themselves? There's an entire platform that we have that's addressing that as well. So we have that hybrid cloud platform that gives you that flexibility and consistency no matter where the applications run. That's our VMware Cloud on AWS, our cloud provider partners. Cloud automation services would give you that consistent broker and policy engine and how you're actually deploying and managing and governing access to these different clouds, as well as the pivotal container service for that hybrid cloud platform. Now, if we think about the native cloud environments, this is where we have tools such as Cloud Health, which can give you cost insights and analytics and optimizations based on how these clouds are being consumed. VMware Secure State, which can ensure that you're enforcing security and compliance across these different clouds. Wavefront by VMware for greater operational enforcement and analytics. And as I mentioned too, our cloud automation services will extend into these cloud native environments as well. And then finally on the DevOps side, tools such as Wavefront by VMware and also VMware Cloud PKS. If I want to run Kubernetes as a service and consumed as a cloud service, I can get that as well in those native cloud environments. So cloud health, just to give you some ideas in terms of where this is at. The total amount of, just if you're thinking about the cloud spend that's managed through cloud health, it exceeds $5 billion. There's more than 3.9 billion API calls to cloud health each month. So this is in the thick of things when we're looking at how clouds are being operated and managed today. Cloud health is right in the middle of it. And again, there's lots of savings and optimizations that can happen by consuming this platform. VMware Secure State is going to allow you to take your security and compliance issues and allow you to enforce that consistently across a variety of clouds as well. We have a lot of real-time event detection that can occur, detecting different vulnerabilities across clouds, helping you with enforcement of both your security rules as well as your compliance reporting that's necessary operating in these different cloud environments. We also do some things that are pretty difficult to find. So if we're thinking about like lateral movement to an administrative server. So think about an application where I've been able to get the state or understand that the SSH keys that are on my public-facing servers inadvertently become the same SSH keys that are being used for my admin servers. And again, this could be human error that's leading to these things, just a configuration error. But being able to detect these types of issues can really save you going forward. And this is the type of cross-service and connected threats that we can provide for you with VMware Secure State. We do a lot of metrics and monitoring with Wavefront as well. So again, when we start to think about the distributed nature of clouds, and in addition to that, even things such as serverless functions, where the notion of serverless is great if you're familiar with it. The idea to be able to code to the cloud and not have to worry about the execution or where that code is actually executing, how it's operating, how the SLA is being enforced. Wavefront can provide you visibility into things such as your native cloud services, your serverless functions, your applications that are running in these cloud environments, and give you that consistent dashboard, consistent metrics, and being able to query and find these anomalies in a highly complex distributed cloud model very quickly. So we've talked, and I've given you some samples in terms of what we're doing in the public cloud and the services that are running there, how we're managing them, how we can give you the VMware environment if that's what you prefer, how we can allow you to operate in the native cloud environments. And at the same time, I give you one example so far of Amazon RDS now coming out of the cloud out to the edge. We're doing a lot of work as well to help with that decentralization of the cloud, where that cloud service is moving out away from the cloud data center. There's lots of forces that are driving this. New application designs, things like augmented reality, which I haven't mentioned previously, is certainly driving this because I need to have that data and application logic really close to the point at which it's being consumed. Lots of different consumption, mass amounts of data being generated, making it just easier, more pragmatic to move a service or say an analytics service adjacent to the data rather than move that data adjacent to the service. So beyond just giving you a platform to run these applications and consistency, we're also giving you that cloud-like experience. So that if I want to get infrastructure managed as a cloud service delivered locally to my environment, this is where Project Dimension comes in. So you get that cloud foundation hyperconverged appliance delivered by partners such as Dell EMC or Lenovo, giving you a centralized hybrid cloud control plane, and then operated by VMware end-to-end. So we're going to provide all those infrastructure updates. This is the equivalent of your VMware Cloud on AWS service being deployed on premises, still managed for you by VMware. So you don't have to worry about the software lifecycle of the infrastructure software itself, the updates. You're managing the applications that are running on top of that stack. We had also announced in partnership with AWS, VMware Cloud on AWS Outposts. So this is taking AWS technology such as EC2 are providing that VMware Cloud Foundation technology as options that can run on premises as well. So this can be through hardware that's deployed from AWS or through Amazon directly to you on site to give you another option. So you can think about AWS Outposts as being one more delivery channel for that Project Dimension from VMware. So in addition to Dell or Lenovo, I can have Amazon as well as a delivery and fulfillment partner in this, depending on what you would like to do. The bottom line from VMware is we're committed to giving you this flexibility so that I can have these different infrastructure choices, I can have these different ways to run my applications, but at the same time, as I mentioned before, making sure that I have consistent infrastructure, consistent operations, and preserving a native developer experience. These are hard to do, these are hard challenges to solve, but VMware loves these types of problems. This is what gets our engineers out of bed in the morning. And thank you very much for your time. Just a couple of closing things here. I talked about a lot of things that's happening and where the future's going. And you could step back and be like, oh man, I don't know where to start. Start small. Think about the future. Think about where that world can get you to, and just accelerate the journey. Make investments now. Things like adaptive micro-segmentation and having this security model where I can enforce an own good state. You might say, boy, that's compelling, but I just can't just replace my entire environment with that today. You don't have to. Start greenfield. Pick one application. Start to build institutional knowledge on learning and using these technologies today. Doing so is going to allow you to much more rapidly turn on these capabilities going forward. It's going to make your organization far more dynamic, far more resilient, far more secure. So thank you for your time and thank you for your partnership with VMware. I spend lots of time with lots of different organizations, and I hope to see you sometime out in the field in the future. Thank you very much.